And welcome back for another exciting week of the Creators Collective. And we are going to have yet another fun week. This week, we're going to be answering a few questions and then talking about what we've done. So, kind of like normal. So, if you have any questions you'd like to have us answer, feel free to email one of us or feel free to join us in the live chat, which is where most people put in their questions. You can do that every Thursday at 9 Central, 10 Eastern. And on the YouTube channel, Creators Collective, you can see us live every week. So come join the fun, and I'm hoping to see you there next time. But let's jump into what we've got going on this week. Zach, you're top of the list. What you got?
So I spent the week finishing up that the metal sign that I got plasma cut out at the Cleveland Lincoln Electric deal.
Yeah.
So I finished that up this week. I posted a little like teaser video with some ridiculous music in the background on my Instagram a couple of days ago. That's pretty much what I've been working on this week, and just getting ready to do some other jobs. I have a lot of things on the agenda. So I released that welding cart video last week, which seemed to go over pretty well. It was the first video that me and my friend recorded our own music for. So, and that's, if anybody's not familiar, the music in that is all completely free, royalty free music. So if you're interested, there's a link in there.
That is so sweet. I'm looking forward to using some of that.
Yeah, have at it. So yeah, there's some fun stuff coming up with that. I'll kind of keep that under the wraps until we get a little bit further down the road. But stay tuned for a whole release of well-produced, royalty-free music that anybody here is welcome to use on their YouTube channel. So there's 2 songs already, but probably a month out or a couple months, we'll probably release like 10, 15 tracks. So did that, and have a lot of big things coming up for the next month. I'm going to release the video blog of the Cleveland event here probably on Saturday, and then after that I'm actually going to release the sign video, and then this next month I'm hoping to actually do a video that involves my wood lathe and also a truck video. I'm about halfway through what I'm actually video. I know it keeps on getting pushed back. Like I don't want to make any promises because I've made so many, and it just keeps getting pushed back. But it is officially back in motion and on the agenda. The next video is going to be the truck box. I pounded out all the dents, did the body work. I have about a little over half of it done. So, I mean, work is actually happening. It's just a matter of, finishing it and getting the video out. So, man, your hair is, I don't know who's watching this right now, but makes it really hard to.
Fine. I'll ditch Bob.
It's actually really funny.
Is that better?
Yeah. Good stuff.
Cool. Will, what you got?
Lots and lots of stuff. I feel a little overwhelmed. Yeah, I feel a little overwhelmed by life right now. Just with all the stuff going on. I was running around all day yesterday. I had to drive over to the Shenandoah Valley and beat the rain because I picked up a new fun tool, a nice big monster grizzly lathe, an 1847 lathe, so I can turn 18-inch diameter things over the bed, or I can slide the headstock all the way to the end and then basically turn anything from the center to the floor. So that's pretty exciting. That's still in the crate. Yeah, I'm excited about that. It was heavy. It's
500-inch bowl coming up.
Yeah. So yeah. It was 550 pounds shipped. So I'll see how much it actually weighs after I get it out of the crate. So I am about to start working on the walnut dining table for a client that's going to have turned pedestal legs. So that was another reason for me picking up this big monster leg, because, a 28-inch long, 10-inch wide leg is going to be super heavy. So solid walnut. So wanted a little bit more heft on that. I just tuned up my table saw. I do that annually where I just check to make sure that the miter slots are square to the blade. The fence is square to the miter slots, hence square to the blade because I squared that up. And just kind of shimmied the tabletop around, gave myself a little bit more clearance for making 45-degree cuts. The arbor was a little bit close to the stock table saw insert, so I shifted that whole table over, recalibrated everything, and then made some zero clearance inserts out of walnut.
I saw those. Those were pretty sharp looking.
Yeah.
Thanks, man. I was like, just because I can, and I have a ton of walnut in my shop, and I just had like the piece that was the perfect width, so I was like, I'm going to use it, and it was my most engaging post on Instagram, I think, ever.
That's funny. I have a dado stack, and I've still never made an insert for it. I can only fit like 3 of the blades in my dado stack, and they'll actually fit through my insert. But I've had like jobs where I'm hogging out like 4 or 5 inches of material, and I still just put the little 3 blades on it and do it in like 15 passes because I'm too lazy to make an insert.
Well, I've got the from Amana Tools, I've got their super fine dado stack that comes with like a bunch of different shims, so you can shim your stack to within, I think, 2/1000 of an inch, so like to fit undersized plywood and stuff like that. And those inserts are so quick to make. Like, I always forget how quick they are to make once you kind of have your process down. And if you've got a combo sander, like a disc sander, that's really where that tool shines. Like, if you just, rough cut these inserts on the bandsaw and then take them over to the disc sander, the stationary sander, like, you can get it like a super tight, perfect fit really quick. So I task you to make an insert so you can use the rest of your dado stack, Zach.
One of these days. It hasn't been getting much action lately. I haven't been doing the wood joinery that I was doing like a year ago.
If I'm only making like one set of tenons or something on the table saw, I'll just do it with the regular, like a standard kerf blade. But if I'm in like production mode where I'm making, a bunch of dado cuts for a big cabinet or something, like, I'll set it up. But I don't set up the dado stack that often, just because it takes more time to set it up than it is just to make the cut, that you need to make with a standard kerf. I ordered a branding iron, a heated fire heated branding iron from Cranford Designs with my logo on it. So I'll start branding stuff. Yeah, I was gonna get it from
how does it heat up? How do you heat it up? Is it
with a torch? It's a 3/4 inch brass, and then you just heat it up with a torch, and then brand your stuff.
I can definitely see the advantage of going. Like, I have one that's kind of the same way, and it works great. But like, I can totally see the advantage of having like an electronically controlled one that just gets to the perfect temperature, and you don't have to like. It takes the guesswork out of it, because it's kind of stressful when you have like this nice piece of furniture and you're ready to brand it, and you're like, I mean, you can test it on a piece of wood first, but it's kind of a inexact science when you're heating it with a torch and doing it. I've only done like, I made a cutting board out of scrap wood last week, and that was stressful enough. I can only imagine doing like a table, and it's like, here we go.
Well, I feel like a table you're going to put it on the underside anyway, so like, it doesn't have to be perfect, because
I just run a test. I just run a test before every time I stamp it.
That's what I do, but still, then I'm like, well, did it lose? How much heat did it lose right there? Do I need to give it a little? I've been lucky so far, but I need to make like a little square thing so that I can make sure that I get it aligned right. That's one of the things, is like, because little things, like if it's a few degrees off, it drives me crazy. So very, very little things in my projects am I like a perfectionist about, but when it comes to text and stuff, I just want it to line up right. So
I'm sure my OCD is going to get to the better of me when it comes in 5 to 6 weeks, and I'll share your woes.
Yeah. Well, also something else too is, it's like, I found that if you're doing it around like next to a radiused corner, it's tricky. Like, if it's not perfectly flat, you won't get an even brand. So that's just something to be careful of. Like, if you're doing it on a corner or something close to a corner, make sure that it's in far enough to where you're actually pressing it on a perfectly flat surface. So I did it on the thing, and it, like, you know what I mean? There's a light radius in the corner, didn't quite brand.
So I feel like I'm gonna make some like just simple, elegant branded coasters, like to sell as like small projects locally. And I feel like anything that doesn't get perfect, I'll just sell off as seconds. You know, like they do with like pots.
Yeah. We'll give them away for our photo challenge winners. Your seconds.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, we can give the seconds away.
I kind of like the slightly messed up brand because it adds more to the aesthetic of it. I always try and make one corner that doesn't quite completely contact, and one side it's heavier. It just makes it look a little more real.
A little more handcrafted.
Yeah.
Not just like stamped. Yeah. And then last
if I really wanted to, I'd get a laser etcher and laser etch it and be done with it. But
I've been looking at the cheap Chinese 2-axis lasers you can get on eBay for like $200. Just because I want to.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen those? Have you guys like put any stock into those?
I've seen them. Like, I have it. This is typical Zack fashion here. Like, I have a tab on one of my computers. Like, I found one. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And I've had the tab open in my computer for like 2 months. So it's somewhere buried in like 15 Google Chrome tabs.
So, Zack.
Yep.
And then the last thing I've got going on is I'm designing for a friend a live edge bench to go in his kitchen, where he wanted something live edge. So we picked out a slab of mulberry, that my favorite place in the whole world. And then I'm designing a base for him. So I'm going to send over some sketches to him. And yeah, he wants it out of wood though. I wanted to do that out of metal, but he wants it out of wood. So it's going to be difficult. I think I'm going to have to make the legs out of something like maple, something really light, because mulberry is such a charismatic wood. Like you can't put like oak next to it because it would just kind of get muddy. But yeah, do you guys have any ideas of a good contrasting base for mulberry?
I don't even know what mulberry looks like.
It's like a reddish, orangish, kind of looks like Osage orange, but not as intense.
I'm looking it up right now.
I would think elm, actually.
Elm, okay.
Elm has a really nice, clean color. It doesn't have as much character in it. It would bounce nice out there. A little bit lighter.
Yeah, it's a little bit lighter. It's not as white as like maple, but it's still kind of that pale, kind of muted. Yeah, I could do.
It's not as fuzzy as an oak.
I would say black and steel.
That's what I wanted to do, but he didn't want it. He didn't want the steel. So
tell him you're done. It's my way or the highway, buddy.
That's right. Find somebody else. But yeah, so that's like all the stuff I got going on. James, what are you working on?
Well, last night we actually had our first live build. So I was kind of experimenting with it. I wasn't quite sure what it would develop into. But the fun thing was my wife was actually here for it. So she was in the shop and she was watching the chat and answering questions and things like that. And so it was kind of a fun opportunity for people to ask, behind the scenes questions to my wife, so that they would get another view of what is it like to, work in the shop. But I decided to make a straight edge, something really fairly quick that would only take 15, 20 minutes. But then if there were a lot of questions, then I could fill the time with that. And I basically ended up finding out I need to either do a build video live or have a Q&A, and trying to mix the two together, it muddies the water. But the whole time was a ton of fun, and really had an amazing response. It was the best live event I've ever had, and a lot of people came out for it. So yeah, if you want to see that, I have the recording of it, and a lot of people asking my wife all those questions, like, don't ask my wife that. I really didn't spend that much on that tool. But yeah, that was a lot of fun, and I'll be doing more of that in the future. Let's see what else. Oh, the glue test. The glue test is coming along. I have I have another 12 boards to glue up. So 12 times 16 pieces. So almost done with that. And the glue testing frame should be here soon. I think Wildman Tech is shipping it out this week, so I'm looking forward to actually having that in the shop. So hopefully that video will be coming out in the next couple weeks. And then, I'm building a low-angle jack plane. Actually, it's more of a low-angle joiner. It'll be about 20 inches long, and it'll be a bevel-up low-angle plane. So it'll actually be a lower attack angle than a normal. It'll be a bevel-down low-angle plane. So it'll be a lower angle than your normal low-angle jack, because a normal low-angle jack has an angle of about 38 and a half degrees. This one will actually have an angle of 30 degrees. So it should be kind of fun. I'm looking forward to experimenting and playing with that. But I'm going to be doing, most of the time, people, when they make it, they cut the sides off, and then they use a saw to cut out the mouth shape. And then they glue the sides back on. But I want to do the traditional method of using a frame wedge. So in other words, not having a pin that goes through that holds the wedge, actually having little clips on the side that hold it in place. But that means you can't cut off the sides. So everything is basically carved out. So this should be a very fun build. The actual traditional method of making a
we have very different ideas of fun, James.
Most people do for me.
So you said it was a bevel down low angle. Is that
yes?
Okay, so you redress the iron and you put a pretty steep bevel on it, right? If it's beveled down to engage.
Yeah, the iron will be a 25 degree, so there'll be a 5 degrees of relief angle, which is really small. And so I wanted to kind of play with it. But for things like a shooting board, because you're always starting at the end of the board, there isn't as much of an issue with that. It'll make it have a slower cut in a plunge. So if I start in the middle of a board, it will take a longer distance for it to fully engage to depth.
Okay. So can you explain to me the benefit of a low angle plane again? I still am having it just seems like it would tear out like ridiculous.
For end grain, it slices through the wood far easier.
Okay. So if you're shooting something,
a really, really clean grain for that. If you're working with the grain, you also get a very, very sharp clean. There's far less chance for chatter. You get a really nice clean cut. But for anything where the grain reverses or you're going against the grain, it's low angle is a pain. Now, the nice thing about doing with the bevel down is I can still use a chip breaker. And so that's the big experiment I'm doing with this is I've never seen a low angle plane with a chip breaker, because if you have bevel up, like most low angle planes, you can't put a chip breaker in there because the bevel gets in the way. Right. But if I have a chip breaker in really close to it, have a nice tight mouth, then theoretically I should be able to do reversing grain very easily. So I'm kind of interested to see how well that works for it. So you get the smoother, easier push of a low angle plane, but with the action of a traditional bevel down chip breaker and tight mouth.
That makes sense. I've still never made a shooting board, so that's probably why I've never seen the allure of the low angle. But
yeah, anytime you're if you're doing a large panel and you want to clean up the end grain, a good low angle plane just does amazing work. That and end grain cutting boards. That was actually the main reason that Stanley came up with the 62. I think it is. I've never been very good at the Stanley numbers, but the original low angle jack plane made by Stanley was designed for end grain cutting boards and chopping butcher blocks, so you can resurface them quickly and easily.
Cool. All right. I swear I'm going to make a block plane soon, just because I want to get on the plane making game.
Somebody just in our photo challenge, I don't know if we want to segue into that right now, but I think somebody actually for their picture, it was a plane that they made, which I thought was pretty cool.
I'll look it up right now.
I don't remember seeing it, but yeah. Yeah, we'll talk about that. Basically, what we're going to be doing for the challenge is last week we started the challenge for the hands-on tools. So submit a picture in Instagram with the hashtag of Creators Photo Challenge, and have your hand on a tool, whether it be a table saw, a plane, or whatever, and make an artistic picture with that. And then you'll be entered into the competition. So you have one more week to put that in. And next week we are going to announce the winner, and then also announce the next 2 week segment of what picture we're going to be doing. So
yeah, we're still kind of getting this thing figured out. So bear with us, but I think we finally have it down. We're gonna it's gonna be a 2 week 2 week challenge every time. We haven't. The one thing we don't know is what you're gonna win, other than like podcast notoriety. I'm sending Rick from Woodwork Life a shirt because he won the last one. His picture was great. We have a handful of submissions already that are pretty good, and I think we all put ours in yesterday, right?
Yeah, I think mine was 2 days ago or something like that. Yeah,
there's a handful of them in there.
Yeah, you can make this too. He's in the live chat right now. He put up a really good one, I think, this morning.
Did he put up two?
Yeah. He put up two.
Yeah.
Yeah, the first one was his entry, and the second one was just his second favorite from the series.
Yeah.
But yeah, Caleb, that photo with you and your kids' hands on your plane, that was
cute.
That was really pretty awesome. You tugged at the heartstrings a little bit.
So yeah, you have 1 more week to get those in. So put a picture on Instagram with the hashtag, and we will take a look at them. Creators Photo Challenge hashtag.
Ooh, there's some good suggestions coming in through the live chat right now. Which this is going to be, so there's a half sheet of plywood challenge, a 2x4 challenge, marking gauge challenge, or maybe that was just Caleb talking about a marking gauge, but that would be an interesting kind of evolution. That's the word I'm looking for. An evolution of the challenge would to like make something out of, with certain stipulations and then take an artistic photo of that. So like make something out of a half sheet of plywood.
That's a lot of work.
That is a lot.
I feel
of
like
work.
we need to get some sponsors involved, because I think the Modern Maker podcast did like a concrete challenge and a 2x4 challenge, and so
yeah, no, you're right.
More than 2 weeks for that too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we should make that like a separate thing if we ever want to consider doing something like that.
It's not a bad idea. Also, if anybody has suggestions for what the next week's photo challenge should be, let us know, because we're not always full of ideas.
My brain is a little drained right now. Yeah.
It's the first quarter of the year is always crazy. Like, it just feel like everything always happens like the first few months. So
yeah.
What do you say? Go we jump into some questions?
Yeah,
let's do it.
Cool. Let's see. Derekauns from the live chat asks, I've been using a chop saw with a diamond blade for cutting metal stock since I started working with it. I'm curious about metal bandsaws. How much of an advantage do they give?
I can answer that. I do a lot of this kind of stuff. So I'm assuming he means like the cold saw, like the one that I use, like the big 14-inch chop saw, and that thing's great. It's been like the backbone of my shop. It will cut through pretty much anything pretty quickly. But I recently, let's see if I think I actually have the links here. I recently picked up, I'll put a link in the live chat, that bandsaw. I've actually had that for a long time. That's just like the DeWalt 20-volt max bandsaw. And I think it's a deep cut. Apparently it cuts larger material or something. But that thing's been great for, there's certain things that just don't cut well in the chop saw. Like I work with all thread a lot, like 1 inch to 2 inch all thread. And anything that's round is just kind of awkward to clamp in a chop saw. But with the bandsaw, it makes it really easy. But I can tell you what made, I think it was actually my tool of the week last week, was that Swag Off-Road bandsaw table. I just put a link to that in the live chat. That thing has made my Portaband like 10 times more useful. It's pretty incredible. It has like this miter gauge on it. So it's pretty much, it turns your bandsaw into like a table saw for metal. I mean, much smaller, but I did, if you guys watched the welding cart video, I did like, I think 10-degree cuts on it, and it was just, everything was perfect. So that's definitely a game changer, I think, to have that. A lot of the times when you're doing angled stuff, because the chop saws only, they're not very accurate. You can do 90 degrees or 45, and anything else, there's no detents for it. So as you clamp it, the angles move around a bit. But with the bandsaw, as long as you're not cutting, 4x4 tubing or 6x6 tubing, you're fine for pretty much whatever angle you can set your miter gauge to. So that's been a really great tool for me.
Yeah, in the metal shop I used to work in, the big benefit of a bandsaw is, particularly if you're cutting larger stock, is you can set up the bandsaw and have it cutting, and then you can go do something else while it's cutting through the stock.
Yep.
Whereas the chop saw, if you're cutting larger stock, you have to sit there with the saw. Especially if the blade's getting dull, you're sitting there for a while. Whereas a bandsaw just runs, and you can go prep the next one. And
yeah,
the amount of prep is the amount of time it takes to cut.
Depends on the kind of bandsaw. If you have like a big horizontal, machining bandsaw, that's one thing. But I'm imagining, for somebody who's just kind of looking to up their arsenal, I would think, just for keeping the budget down, those portabands are, everything I do is metal, and
if you're talking about a portaband,
yeah, that's what I have in that little bandsaw table. It's
okay. Yeah, I was taking it as a horizontal bandsaw.
No, I still want one of those really, really bad. I want the big mitering one though, but I have no room for it in my shop.
I love mine, and I've got I've got my welding table on casters, obviously, because welding tables are really, really heavy. And I've got the welding table just far enough away from the wall that I can slide my horizontal bandsaw, because it's on wheels, behind the welding table. And then whenever I'm cutting like a bunch of stock for like a table base or something like that, like James said, I can just, start the cut and set up a stop, walk away, go start grinding the next piece, getting ready for welds or something like that. And then they shut off automatically when the cut is done, and it's kind of like gives you an alarm when the cut's done, because the piece of metal hits the concrete shop floor, and it's like a bell. It's like, all right, it's like, all right, cool, like cut's done.
Yeah, or you can get like the saw I used to have at the shop I worked at. It was fully automatic with a feeding, so you would program into it, I need 5 cuts at 4 foot long and 3 cuts at 2 foot, and then another couple 6 inches, and so it automatically feeds this 22 foot long piece of stock through the saw and slices and cuts and slices and cuts. But then you're talking like $20,000 per saw, so that's probably
not going to happen.
Yeah. And you have to have a space for 22 feet of stick in and out of the saw.
Yeah, ain't nobody got space for that.
It's the story of my life.
All right, so Egbertjoe has a question.
Oh, before we go on, I have to correct. He changed he corrected me. It's Derekauns.
Yep.
Derekauns. Sorry, keep going.
That's all right. All right, so Egbertjoe has a question. If you could pick any long-term, large-scale project to build, i.e. SV Seeker, I'm not sure what that is.
He's building like a giant...
imagine a 40-foot long boat in your yard.
Not 40, it's
it's me like 80.
80 or 100, or it's ridiculous. It's like Noah's Ark in his front yard.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. What would it be? Assume you'd video the project, but money and subscriptions and shop space aren't an issue.
I know exactly what I'd build.
All right, James, you go for it.
I'd build an 8-seat canard with a twin-engine pusher.
Don't you talk dirty to me.
A canard airplane is the one where the tail is, well, basically the horizontal tail, the elevator is in front of the wing. And then twin engines, so the twin rotors close to the body and back are pushing, as opposed to a blade in front pulling. Very, very efficient style, very, very controllable. 8-seat would be enough so the family could go, and then I could carry luggage as well. It would be my absolute dream to design and build that. Maybe one of these days.
That is ambitious.
Yeah.
It would probably be 3 to 4 years of my life building it by myself.
Huh. Wow. I was going to say a guitar.
That's funny.
Guitars and
Yeah.
fishes.
That or a cedar strip canoe, and that's on my list.
Cool.
I'm so glad nobody said a river table. I feel like that's like it is like infected all of YouTube. Like I'm holding out. I'm not going to do one. I keep telling myself like, don't do a river table, Zach. Don't do it.
So here's my thing with the river table. I think Greg Clausen, it was his original design, or that was like his shtick. Is his shtick. Still sells them, and he does his out of glass. I think they're beautiful. If I were him, I'd feel pretty frustrated right now with like that was like his thing, and like everybody just like recreating it with epoxy and infesting everything. It's kind of like how Etsy like destroys like expectations for pricing custom work.
I mean, I get it. Like I can see both sides of it. Like I think it's great that people are getting involved in building stuff, and the river tables are very inspirational and people really like it. And I think it's cool to see people making stuff, but I feel like it's like become the Game Genie of YouTube. You guys remember Game Genie? The old like, Nintendo cheat system. Yeah. Like I feel like if you Google river table, there's like 100 of them out there that have like come out in the past 6-7 months. And I got to hand it to Johnny. Like he was, as far as I know, he was like the original one, and gave credit to Greg Clausen and stuff. But it seems like it's
well, the thing is,
really,
they're still doing well.
Who
did one last week? A big name that create a river fall.
John Malecki did one that's blowing up right now, and his was really cool. He did like a metal base for it that was really sweet. And then Brad Rodriguez Build That did one, and they're all really cool. They're doing them. They're doing a really good job, and I like it when people add something unique. You know, the base on John Malecki's was really cool, and Brad Rodriguez actually did his that was a waterfall table, and he had the epoxy running down the waterfall front, which was pretty cool.
I liked his color mix too.
Yeah. So I mean, there's some good stuff out there.
I'm about to be making my dining room table. It won't be a river table, but it will have 2 big lakes. I'll be putting about 3 gallons of epoxy into it.
Huh.
But I'll be doing a few other things, beach glass and whatnot, that make it feel a little different.
Yeah,
it won't be the focus of it. It'll just be making that area of the wood usable.
Yeah, I like the creativity aspect. I like when people, try and add their own spin on stuff. Do a reverse river table. That'd be expensive. Or like the river's wood. The rest of the tables.
An island table.
So speaking of the river and Greg Clausen, have you guys seen his wall art series? Yeah. So he does like basically the same thing, where he sets the glass in and routes out, the little groove and then hand cuts the glass. But I get it on a table where gravity is your friend. But he's done it with some wall art where he does it, to hang on the wall. And I have no idea how he does it and holds the glass in without the glass falling out. Do you guys have any thoughts on how you would secure that?
I was totally reading the comments and not listening to you.
Sweet.
I'm such a bad I'm trying to like catch up on the live chat, and apparently I can't multitask when I do that. Do you have any ideas, James? Maybe I can piece together the
I was reading question. The chat and trying to
all right, cool. So I was just talking to talk. Okay. Round 2. All right. So Greg Clausen, he does his river out of glass, right?
Okay.
It's not a pop. Gotcha. It's out of glass.
Yeah.
He hand cuts the glass, and then he routes out, the inlay for the glass to sit in.
Mm-hmm.
I get that. Gravity is your friend, right? Gravity is holding the glass in. Well, he does a series of wall art where the river sits, on a wall vertically. And I have no idea how he's holding the glass in so it doesn't just fall out.
There's a really, this is actually kind of a cool technique that I've been experimenting with a lot lately, and it's called glue. It works really well.
Yeah, I've seen some tables like out there lately that have like the legs are all separated. They're just individual. Like I saw an end table, and it was just like 3 posts, and they weren't connected to each other. and they look like machined aluminum or something, but I think there's some sort of epoxy that there's some sort of adhesive that they're using to adhere it to the glass. I don't know what it is, but
yeah, either an epoxy or a silicone glue that is slightly flexible that will allow wood movement.
So I was going to say silicone, but wouldn't you be able to see that through the glass?
Not if you do it right. If it's a thin coat back in the corner between the glass and the wood.
oh, you know what else you could do is use a router and cut like a channel, kind of like a tongue and groove, so that so that the glass sits in between, like sits in a groove, so the front and back would hold it in place.
Except for the glass is flush with the front of the piece.
Well, then that's out. But you could still do it that way and it would look good. Just
slide the glass in,
one method.
Slot.
Put it together around the glass.
Wait a second, Zach. Did Will say something?
I don't know.
Oh,
let's move on. Let's see. We have one more question from Carbonite Gamorrean, a guy who's always watching the channel here. So thank you for that. This is an interesting one. Bird Cage Awl. Do you like 3 or 4 sides on the tip? And why do you have that? Is there any pros and cons to that?
I don't even know what a bird cage awl is.
Am I the only one with opinion on this?
I think so.
A bird cage awl is an awl that, rather than having a cone, a round cone tip, it actually has a diamond tip. So it either has 3 or 4 facets to the nose of it. It allows it to cut more than just kind of being a puncturing needle.
Huh. All right. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I have no thoughts on that.
Basically, the big difference is a 3-sided one it's basically a sharper cutting edge on each side because each one is more of an acute angle. So it cuts a little bit more as you turn it in the wood. But the problem is if you're doing it with an improper method, it tends to bounce more. So kind of like if you think of a reamer for reaming out a hole, if there are too few blades, you kind of end up with a star pattern in the hole, if that makes sense. Whereas a 4-sided one, it cuts a little slower, but it doesn't bounce quite as much. That being said, 3-sided awls are really hard to find. There aren't very many of them. So 4-sided ones are the more common birdcage awl. And so that's what I usually prefer, is a 4-sided one personally.
Okay.
All right. It's good to know.
Birdcage awls.
Good to know.
Well, what do you say we jump onto the joke of the week?
Let's do it.
This one is from Joel. Oh man, I'm sorry, Joel.
Boggerhole.
We'll go with that.
I like how we've given you the job of pronouncing everyone's name, and that's your weakness.
Yeah, how come you got Egbertjoe? That's an easy one. But Joel asks. Joel has the joke of the week, which is what tree grows near the ocean? Beech tree.
I love the awkward silence after the jokes. That's what makes it for me.
Yes. I love that. So if you have a joke you'd like to hear us read, and the dumber the joke, the absolute,
yes, the more awkward you can make us feel after telling the joke, the better.
Yeah, last week,
the longer the silence, the better.
That was fantastic.
Yeah.
So,
we do need a cricket and tumbleweed sound effect that we can play.
I should add that in. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
What sound does a tumbleweed make, though?
I don't know if you heard that.
Wind. That was good. That was very good.
Thanks.
You should do your own sound effects for some whooshes and pops like Peter McKinnon did, and release it.
Nice.
I need to get a sound generator on here and pump those out. Okay. So what are we watching or reading? Will, what you got?
I just watched Paul Jackman's making perfectly segmented rings video.
Yes.
Because with this big lathe, I want to try to start getting into some more segmented stuff. just because I don't know if I can find trees big enough to make bowl blanks out of green. So he made a video on the miter set, which is a small business, small company that they make an indexing block. It's like, I think it's machined aluminum with index holes marked out, and you set 2 pins in the holes for however many segments you want your ring to be, and then you set your miter gauge for your table saw to those pins, and you get your length right, but it makes the angles perfect for no gaps in your segmented rings. That is
a cool little jig.
I'm really excited. I'm going to order one. I'm going to try it out.
It's funny. I actually sent them an email like right before Paul put his video out, and I'm like, "Hey, I got this the stool that I want to segment and turn. And wondering if they wanted to work with me on that." And now I'm sure they're probably sold out of that gauge after Paul's video. So I'm just gonna have to say, Paul, send me your gauge for a week, dude.
I'll just drive up and get it. I'll steal it from him.
We'll have like joint custody.
Yeah.
Get it?
That was bad. That was a bad joke.
Yeah.
James, what are you watching?
I am watching a channel called The Every Maker. It's a smaller channel, and I think he has like 150 subs. So he's just getting started, but his videos are phenomenal. Really takes a good amount of time editing them. Great discussions. He does a few things where he talks through projects and he makes projects, and really cool channel. So I've spent a little bit here binge watching his stuff. But yeah, if you want to get on the ground floor of a channel that's going to be doing really well here soon, definitely go check out The Every Maker. I'll leave a link to that in the description. Yeah. What you got, Zach?
I am taking a break from informational books, and I started reading Christine by Stephen King, and it's pretty awesome.
Cool.
So yeah, that has nothing to do with anything, but yeah, it's good.
Right on.
We got tools of the week. I haven't even picked one
yeah,
yet.
What you got? Since
I don't have anything yet.
Well, then we'll come back to you.
Okay.
Will,
I don't know. My Bosch Colt router, little trim router. I have been doing a lot of on-site installs lately where just little hiccups keep coming up with like, oh, this sink is different and needs a little spot routed out because this nut needs to fit in between the countertop and the bottom of the sink and stuff like that. So I've been carrying that in my truck. It's just a really easy, small tool to make big changes in projects. So yeah, my little Bosch Colt router, super useful tool.
Sweetness.
Yeah.
Well, I've got the jointer plane or joiner plane. We were talking about this beforehand. Is it a joiner plane or a jointer plane?
I never know.
It depends on if you're making a joint or if you're joining boards.
Oh, really? Is that correct?
I don't know. That's just what it sounds like to me. Either you're joining boards or you're jointing a board. But you don't often joint a board. But you're making a butt joint.
So when it comes to hand planes, I'm not sure. It drives me nuts when somebody's talking about a power jointer and they call it a joiner. Because if you're going to buy a jointer, if you type in joiner, like no tool manufacturer is going to have that. They all sell jointers, but I think it could be different with a plane. I'm not sure.
Somebody needs to start a woodworking channel called Jackie Jointer Kersey.
Oh, that's funny.
That needs to happen. Even if they put no videos out, I just want to see. I just want to see that out there in the world.
The reason I like a joiner plane, not a jointer plane. I prefer to call it joiner.
Well, you're from the Midwest, so.
But if you get it set up right and you have a nice flat sole, that's the only plane that really matters that the sole is flat. Every other plane out there, if you're out of flat a little ways, it's really not going to make that much of a difference. But for a joiner plane, if it's a really nice, true flat sole that you can trust, then the depth that the iron protrudes from the mouth determines your error from end to end of the board. So if you have a 24-inch long plane and the blade sticks out 1/1000th of an inch, you know that you have a variance of 1/1000th of an inch over 24 inches, which is pretty much nothing. And so you can actually get a really nice flat surface that you don't have to check or judge. You just run the plane down it, and if you get a nice clean surface from one end to the other, and you know that you're not bellied in the middle, then you know the boards are ready to go. So yeah, it's just a fantastic tool once you really learn how to use it.
So I've got a question real quick about making hand planes, because I'm going to do it. Making a wooden jointer plane, whatever you want to call it. Is it cheating to use a power jointer to get a super flat sole?
No. Why?
Or is it just kind of defeating the purpose?
I think that's a philosophy thing. Like, it depends on your philosophical standpoint behind making.
You can,
tools.
but I think the question is why. I think that takes all the fun out of it for me.
Yeah, I mean,
it gets the work done. But
I know that
it's using the winding sticks and the straight edge and truing it up and knowing that everything's the way you want it to be. And
that's true. I just know if I make a video, if I make a hand plane and I'm just like, I just need to get the bottom of this thing perfectly flat, and I run it over my jointer, people are gonna like crucify me in the comments section.
Yeah.
Anyway, just a meta thought for you to end the show.
I should do that in my plane video. I'm gonna go flatten the edge right now, and I turn around and grab run it over the jointer.
Nice.
Well, Zach, have you come up with a tool of the week?
Sure. I don't have a link for it because I don't even know what it is. There's a guy. Locally, and he got a hold of me through something a while ago, and he gave me I don't know the terminology. I don't know if it's a diffuser or a gas lens and a number 8 cup for my TIG welder. And so I got my TIG welder set up like a week ago and was doing fine with it. And then I started messing around with like silicon bronze and some other stuff. And I'm like, let me try that other lens that he gave me, or the diffuser, whatever you call it, joiner, whatever. I put that on there and it was just night and day difference. So if there's any TIG welders out there, I'm sure you probably know this already, but I found that putting one of those lenses on there made all the difference in the world. So yeah, that's my tool. No link.
Sweet. Well, it's happened again. You guys have used up an entire 45 minutes listening to the Creators Collective. I'm sorry for that. But this has been an enjoyable time. If you would like to have questions added to the list, feel free to email one of us or join us in the live chat every week. Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern time, we'll be on YouTube at the Creators Collective YouTube channel. And we're looking forward to seeing what questions you have next week. But that's about it for this week. Until next time, have a wonderful day.
See you later.
Adios.